Bugünkü programımızı keynote konuşmacımız Michael Knowles'la açıyoruz. Ben kendisini hem tanıtmak hem de konuşmasını yapmak için buraya davet ediyorum. Would you please come, Michael?
Warm welcome from my side this morning in this prestigious audience room. So, having the honor to do the keynote today on, I've been asked to talk about EU sustainability policy and the development in this area. And as you might recall from my small presentation yesterday, I'm not a particularly fan of the term sustainability, and I told you that we in Germany try to overcome the term sustainability, as this buzzword has been spoiled in Germany already. So at the moment we are trying to spoil the buzzword zero emission. So you will see a couple of slides which are entitled as sustainable development, and a couple of slides are already with new buzzword. And I'll try to focus on a couple of those issues which came to my mind if I think about sustainable development in Europe. Just give us 2 seconds and then we'll get the presentation. So a couple of words to myself. I'm the head of the international department at the Research Institute. We are one of the biggest research institutes in Germany. We are working in all types of sustainable areas. So we are doing waste to energy, we are doing wastewater, we are doing all types of renewables, and we are doing all types of energy efficiency. So we have more than a decade of experiences. We are working globally in 32 countries all around the globe. Usually our teams, our research teams for a single project encompass all different fields. So we are working together with mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, social scientists, economics, and all others in order to find a sustainable solution. In my profession, I'm a trained banker and I'm an economist by heart, so usually I try to bring in economic perception of things, as we do not believe in projects which are depending on subsidies, which are depending on the continuous spending of whatever taxpayers' money. So usually we try to push those type of projects which can be taken on by the private sector as private or public-private partnerships. So we are looking to develop new types of projects. We are working in all types of consultancy areas for small, medium-sized companies and cities, and our focal point usually is what we call climate protection and regional economic development. So we are trying to combine both aspects. We'll try to show that it's economically totally interesting. If we are looking on this type of slide, to come from a throughput society with a large amount of energy and material demand towards what we call the closed cycle economy or circular economy. Some tend to believe this is a large threat to the economy to come from A to B, and we tend to believe that this is a large amount of efficiency potentials, of green business potentials, so there are clever technologies, clever financing situations, and we can do a business by improving the environment, by decoupling the economic growth and the material consumption. We already learned yesterday that we are on the pathway to exceed the 2-degree target, and that we need to significantly cut down our emissions in the north or industrialized world by 80%, and we need to levelize in the southern part development. So we need to leapfrog, and the ambition from the industrial to the developing world is to make sure that they are having the financial means, the access to technologies and know-how to make this transition and this leapfrog. Having said that, I'll give you the definition of what the EU calls Sustainability Foundation, so the European 2020 strategy, and I was highlighting or underlining a couple of those terms, and you will see there is nothing new. It's decoupling economic growth, it's low carbon economy, renewable energy, modernization of transport, and energy efficiency. If we would look into each single aspect, and if we look into how are they defined, you will come up that we are using another set of buzzwords. We're talking about a clean and healthy, a green and a pleasant and efficient, sustainable, a well-managed and democratic environment. But we do not find operationalized targets. We do only see a kind of a climate to energy target, a triple 20. We would like to have 20% renewables by 2020, 20% 20% reduction in greenhouse gases, and we would like to have 20% energy consumption cut down as a type of energy efficiency strategy. These are the only operationalized targets, and then we'll come up with some indicators, and we know, okay, greenhouse gas intensity, energy consumption, we have a shining sun, but we are not far away from electricity generation from renewables. So my point is, if we have the shining sun on this side and it's still raining on the other side, how does this go together? Usually you should have a rainbow there. So I'm going to give you some insights in what we do in Germany in particular in these areas, as we are usually in the push and the pulling forces of the European Union, in particular if we're talking about renewable energy. We had set our goals to 20% by 2020. At the moment we are already at 24%, so we are in 2014 over achieving already, so we need to have new ambitious targets, and if we can do it in Germany on a commercial scale, I'm really sure the EC could do it also in the Balkan region, in the south parts, and I will show you why I believe that. So we came, at the moment, we'll see that the EC is discussing their new positions. So we will have new renewable energy, new energy efficiency scenarios, but most likely we see that we have no new target in energy efficiency. We do not see any target coming up for dependency on energy carrier imports, in particular if we are looking into our dependency of natural gas and the political situation which is happening between Russia and Ukraine. So in Europe we are importing nearly 70% of all our gas from Russia via Ukraine, and in 2012 we already experienced that somehow the gas was closed and the gas pipeline was closed for nearly a week. In Germany we are not particularly affected, as we do have 220 terawatt hours of gas storage, so we can store gas for nearly a month, but nevertheless it's a kind of insecure political situation. So I would like to show you that we can produce our gas from other sources, that we can reduce our energy dependency, and at the end I'll give you a kind of a showcase of a German community or county district and what they are doing and how far they are away from the European Union targets. I would like to start to give you the idea of waste management, as the EC still thinks we are on track with our European landfill directive, with our waste to energy movement. But this is the situation. If we look into the second column, we see that in Germany we are utilizing all of our solid waste at the moment. There is just a marginalized 1% which goes to the landfill, but the majority is ending up in recycling, incineration, or in anaerobic digestion plants. But we also see that in particular on the Balkan, these trends are by far not exceeded. So if we are looking into waste management, and I showed the picture yesterday, we are looking into an industry. So do we have any type of a laser pointer? So if you see the yellow square, this is basically all our waste wood. And if you see the brown square, this is all our organic parts of household waste. And we are turning everything into resources, we are turning everything into a fuel. Lovely sense. Okay, so if we look into this and if we ask ourselves why is it the lower yellow line, the yellow, this is the price what you had to pay if you dispose of 1 ton of high contaminated waste, so Tarsen contaminated waste in 1999. So you nearly had to pay 100 euros to get rid of 1 ton of waste. In 2000 we introduced our Renewable Law Act, and the public and the private sector took it on. We invested heavily into biomass to energy type of facilities, and you see that all these facilities are competing right now for the same sources. And if you go on the upper level and still see the yellow one, at the moment you are getting 35 euros for 1 ton of high contaminated waste. So things which formerly had been a waste, where you had to pay a hell of a lot of money to get rid of the waste, is becoming a valuable resource. And the technology is proven technology. We do have 250 of these types of technologies in Germany at the moment, with a total installed capacity of 1.5 gigawatt. 1.5 gigawatt is the equivalent to 2 medium-sized nuclear power stations. So we are turning waste into energy. We are turning it into steam, we are turning it into heating, cooling, and electricity. And we are doing some money out of it. So we do money all along the value chain by cutting the greenery residues, by conditioning into wood chips, and later on in providing heating or cooling and electricity services. So we are looking into the business aspects of sustainable waste management, the business aspects of green energy. The same situation in biogas. At the moment in Germany we have roughly 8,500 biogas plants with an average installed capacity of nearly 1 megawatt. So in total we have 8.5 gigawatt, or the equivalent of nearly 15 nuclear power stations installed in utilizing green organic residues, producing a kind of substrate which can be used as fertilizer, substituting mineral fertilizer, and which is producing heating and cooling used locally. So our waste management is particularly decoupling economic growth from the material consumption. We see, if we look into other waste streams, for instance paper, we have recycling quotas of 90%. If we look into different packaging streams, we are achieving 80% of all the material will be recycled before it will finally end up in an incineration. If we look into organic fractions in Germany, we have round about some 9 million tons per year. All those type of organic residues are separately collected. This is the first type of challenge what you have in the community, but if you collect it separately, you have a pure digestate, and then you can reuse it in the agricultural area. On the European Union, we are talking about composting. From my perspective, composting is absolutely the wrong way, because if you do composting, you are taking energy to destroy energy. This chart shows you the different net energy gains of different anaerobic digestion, comparing to the energy demand of aerobic composting. You need to turn the waste, you need to have windrows, you need to blow in the air, so you have a kind of 15 to 80 kilowatt hours energy demand for 1 ton of waste, while the waste is having a specific energy content of 150 kilowatt hours per cubic meters. So we should have the right technologies, because at the end the technologies are influencing our greenhouse gas balance, are influencing our sustainable development. And if we look into the comparison of savings or load, we see that the anaerobic digestion usually are outstanding in terms of their positive contribution to greenhouse gas abatements. So we do a lot of greenhouse gas abatement by turning waste into energy, and in nowadays turning it into fertilizer. We are substituting phosphorus, we are substituting nitrogen on a large scale. Phosphorus, we talked already yesterday, is a kind of a finite material with predicted volumes which last us for 30 years. Meanwhile, the dependency of phosphorus is creating and going up, and nitrogen is similar. We have a high load of energy to produce a certain amount of nitrogen. So if you are substituting the mineral-based fertilizer, we are also benefiting from greenhouse gas abatement, and we have a much better soil, much more carbon in the soil, so we are producing our strategy to combat marginalization of our agricultural system. So anaerobic digestion is one step in the right direction if we're talking about sustainable development, in particular in the waste sector. And we look into urban mining, all the technologies are there. We need to combine transportation with waste management, as we could use the natural gas to power our fleets and public transportation. So at the end, it's a kind of an economic issue. You'll get what you pay for. If you're going to invest less, what you usually do if you're building up a landfill, you're ending up with continuous expenses over time. If you're going to invest more into a kind of resource center, you have an investment, because you're creating products, you're creating revenue streams, you're creating a kind of a cashback, and at the end of the day, you are much economically interesting and cheaper. So if we look into what we had achieved in Germany in the 1990s, we had 40 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions in the waste management area, and nowadays it's adding positively 15 million tons by fossil fuel switch, by substituting mineral fertilizer. So waste management and appropriate waste management is not only an economically interesting alternative, it's also a sustainability policy at its best. This is how landfills are looking usually in Germany. You put the waste in, you get products out, it's a kind of an industry. This is something what we need on the large scale as well. If we are particularly looking for developing countries, usually you have the issue if we're going to utilize all waste, that an enormous amount of people are living under the dirty conditions from the waste. So we once came up with a concept that we are going to build a kind of a fund. So we are taking all these workers, the scavengers living on the landfill, put them into regular job position. We are paying them a certain amount of salaries, and a certain amount of their salaries is invested into a kind of a capital accumulation stock. And at the end of the BOT area, we are taking these type of scavengers and make them the shareholder of the large new plants. So we can easily do that. This is our energy system in Germany. In Germany, we are trying to achieve 100% renewables at the moment. So what we are challenged with is the entire area of storage. So what we have done now is how much renewables we have. So we checked how much wind, solar, we checked how much intermittent nature of renewables, how much storage demand, and we found out that electricity is not an issue. 75% of the total energy demand is usually heat. So we need to look into heat, we need to look into available sources, and we need to look in how can we combine our infrastructure, and we are talking about smart grids, in such a way that it's supporting our overall goals of energy. I'll give you an example. In Germany, all usually medium-sized cities, they have their water storage, which is a large dome with 1.5 cubic meter of water inside. They have a level meter, and every time the water is running below a certain level, they are pumping and recharging the entire reservoir. And now it's a national strategy to keep the water in times where we have an abundant reserve of renewables. And we are going to equip them with some energy recovery devices, because if you are pumping up water on the hill, you can also release the water. This is a pump type of storage, a combination of fresh water supply system and energy storage. The same, we are looking into our waste as a kind of a storage. So at the moment we are doing all the type of biomass to electricity on a constant 8,400 hours per year scheme. But we are trying to rethink this, because we do have gas storage which lasts us for 1.5 months. So if we would use all the biogas turned into natural gas, inject it into the gas grid, and have high efficient gas power stations, we could use the entire biomass as a regulatory means to stabilize the grid at 450 Hz and do the entire power saving strategies. So electricity generation from biomass, waste to energy is combining and supporting our renewable energy target at the moment. This is what we see in the EU in 2009. So in average, we see a couple of countries which already fulfilled in 2009 the 2020 targets. Germany is among them, the UK is among them, Denmark, Sweden, and we see that a couple of those, in particular Malta, Lithuania, Latvia, they are far away. What is the key factor? It's the public interest. It's the private investments. So we later on see the figures in Germany. So these are our greenhouse gas emissions. We had the ambitious goal of 21% in the Kyoto Protocol, which is unfortunately not renewed. We met it exactly to the dot. One of the few examples who really took the Kyoto commitment serious. But this had largely been contributed by our renewable energy strategy. So you see the green line, this is the share of renewables at the total electricity consumption, and the brown ones are the total greenhouse gas emission. So if we look into the power mix, we see that we already had in 2013 24% of renewable share. It's greatly photovoltaics, it's greatly biomass, and it's largely wind. By doing so, we are decreasing our dependency on fossil fuels. So 2 years ago we saved the import equivalent of 10 billion, and nowadays we expect to save 50 billion. We are doing some serious research at the moment whether we can become a net gas exporter. At the moment we are importing 60% of all our natural gas, mainly from Russia, and by the end of 2020 we would like to export at least 10%. We would like to be completely energy independent. So we are talking about investments. We are talking about job creation by renewables, but the question is, who is investing in renewables? And based on our feed-in tariff, we see that a large amount of investments are organized by the private, by single households, by single small companies. So we see that we have a kind of a socializing the energy structure at the moment. We have more than 1.5 million independent power producers. So every seventh German is producing electricity and he's a power producer. So we had the same strategy, we had the same situation after the Second World War, where the communities organized their energy service utilities, and we privatized them at the 70s, leading to a situation where we had 4 large energy utilities. In 2010, these 4 large energy utilities had a total EBITDA of 4 billion euros. And this profit was based on the German taxpayers' money, and more than 50% of the stakeholders are outside of Germany. And we are trying to reverse the trend. We are trying to communalize again our electricity production and transmission and demand. So wind at the moment we are at 35 gigawatt total installed. The same is for PV. So last year we have 5 gigawatt installed. At the moment we are at 38 gigawatt of PV. In total we have 100 gigawatt of renewable energies installed. 100 gigawatt, this is the equivalent of Turkey's demand at the moment in production terms. So we could power it completely. Mr. Sachs already yesterday showed that this is based already on a kind of economy of scale effect industry, where we see very cheap panels coming to the market, and at the moment we see 38 cents per kilowatt, which is the cheapest if we are going for a megawatt scale project. So this is leading to certain energy production costs, levelized cost of energy production. This is the prediction of our German Fraunhofer Institute. We see that the yellow one, these are the costs for small scale PV or large scale PV. They are already economically competitive. We are basing this cost of a production value of 1,050 kilowatt hours per kilowatt peak. Imagine in Turkey you have solar irradiation which is 50% higher. Meaning with the same surface, the same technology, you're getting 50% more electricity in your state. The same investments leading to 50% more income. So these plants must be much more profitable in Turkey than they are in Germany. In Germany, we see, if you see the blue line, these are the levelized cost of energy generation by photovoltaics. In 2012 already, they had been lower than the household electricity price. Meaning it's cheaper to produce your electricity by yourself and use it. And in 2014, it's meeting the industrial tariffs. Meaning all our industries at the moment covering at least 40 to 50% of their energy demand by locally produced electricity, as it's economically totally interesting. We're not needing any subsidies anymore because we tend to believe the market has done to bring the cost down, and we are going to have a scheme now which is economically totally interesting. But not only economically interesting, it's also creating what we call regional added value in terms of taxes, corporate taxes, in terms of job income, in terms of whatever type of profits for the privates. So this is a prediction of the regional added value of different types of renewables, and we see that the total creation on the municipality level in average is 13 billion euros in Germany. So all our communities are doing business by investing in renewables. If we would look into certain plant sizes, a small biogas plant with 1 megawatt installed, or a wood-fired biomass station with 5 megawatt installed, we are creating, after capital expenditure, after capital return, a kind of 30 million regional added value for community operating these type of systems, in terms of taxes, in terms of income, all these things. So usually the question is who is paying the bill. At the end of the day, all our renewable law feed-in tariffs are put onto the consumer prices. So this is the development of the total subsidies in brackets, and this is the development of the consumer prices. At the moment we are paying 25 euros per kilowatt hour for electricity. But this is the development what we expect. We expect that in 2015, 2016 we see the peak If we go back, if we would have a kind of a laser beamer, you would see that the blue line is the cost for the energy production. The brown, the green, and the grey are different taxes, and just the yellow fraction, this is what we pay as a subsidy for the renewable energy promotion per kilowatt. At the moment 3.5, at the moment it's 5.6. And we expect that this is leveling off, because all the old power stations which receive very high funding from 2000, they are running out of funding. Usually the German system had foreseen 15 years IPPs, independent power producer, 15 years fixed prices for the feed. 15 years ago we had given them 60 cents per kilowatt hour produced from photovoltaics. And nowadays they're getting 15 cents. So all these very expensive are going out. And then we tend to believe that we are leveling our energy costs at 25 cents. But this will be then stable for the next decades to come. Because we have completely remodeled our energy system. We are going to get it cheaper then, by economy of scale effects. At the moment, wind turbines are getting cheaper and cheaper. So we are completely independent then by any increase of fossil fuel prices. So we see this as an investment in our future, in our economic competitiveness. At the moment, we have a little bit of hard times in order to explain that, but on the long run, it will pay off. I'll give you an example of a county district in Germany with 100,000 inhabitants and an area of 1,000 square kilometers. You see that the average settlements are small, 500 people, and these 500 people usually migrate to urban areas. We have a demographic change, we are getting older, we do have less kids, so we need to come up with a strategy to keep those people in their villages. And this is one thing what we do. So the county district calculated that they are losing every year 200 million euros on purchase power by electricity, heating and transportation bills of their local citizens. And this was the idea to come up with an energy producing strategy and cycle this money within their region. So they had the idea we are going to be 100% carbon free, we are 100% decentralized renewable energy production, all those things by 2020. So far away, far exceeding the European and the German sustainability policies. So we modeled how much electricity demand, how much transport, how much heating demand they have now, and we came up with some 450 gigawatt hours, what they do have now. We calculated how much CO2 it is, and how much money they have to spend and where does the money end up. And we concluded that at the moment they are not doing much regional added value. It's in the range of 25 million because the majority, 92% of all payments are leaving the county districts going towards Saudi Arabia, going towards Russia. So we look which is the single sources of fossil fuel carrier and how can we replace them by which type of technology substitute. And then we had a final target, a final aim. This is how the county district is looking like in 2020. And we concluded that if we are going to organize an investment of 1 billion within the next 20 years, we are creating, after capital expenditure, a regional added value of 25 billion. We are supporting the local craftsmen, we are supporting local businesses and local households. So this is the energy dependency after the time, after the investments. Give you some certain examples what they do. They use all their wood chips to power district heating systems. So they are organizing all their waste wood in the kind of energy for local needs network. They are already in 2012 covered the entire energy electricity demand of the region by wind and PV. Last year they exceeded their demand by 50%, so they are producing 150% of the electricity demand already. And this is what they have in mind for the next year to come, just next year, to produce 3 times more electricity than is consumed in this county district. So this rural area type of county district is going to be a net energy exporter for urban cities like Mainz, Cologne, Berlin. So we are taking our rural areas to be energy producer as a renewable energy, as a surface energy for the mega cities. And I believe in Turkey we could do the same. So they are creating a lot of CO2 emission savings, 270,000 per year. They are creating locally new jobs and creating locally cash. How do they do this? Last example, this is a PV rooftop program. So it's organized by the local bank. It's happening in all county districts. You are checking by the internet your roof. The red one is very suitable, so you click onto your roof. The second picture, what you see is the chart telling you how big your roof is, whether it's suitable or not, how much you need to invest, how big the PV plant could be, and how much you have to pay as an interest rate. And if you click one further, you get the entire business plan before and after tax. And if you do one more click, you file a loan application to the local bank. And you get the response within 24 hours. And usually those loans are approved. So the local banks are running this program because it's a safe loan program for them. It's backed up by the feed-in tariff. It's a massive investment what they can organize on a community level. For the private, it's good because they are cutting down their energy bills. And for the local handcraft sector, it's brilliant because it's a kind of an economic promotion program. So if you see what these guys have been doing, they invested 2 minutes in the 1.4 billion euros over the last 10 years. They are creating 130 million turnovers per year. The total budget 2000 of the county district annually was 80 million. They had debt of 15 million in 2002, and right now they are one of the richest county districts by investing in renewables, by organizing a change. So it's very easy, but it takes a deeper look. And it takes our ambitions, and we need to get a little bit away from our pipeline. So we need to organize investments in district heating and cooling systems. We need to determine how much potentials we have. We need to see what type of technologies we need, what type of investment structures, and how can we bring the public and the private together. We need to look into regional resource management. We should not call it integrated solid waste management, let's call it resource management, and put waste into a valuable resource. And all other issues as well. And we have to look in our soil. So we need to take the biomass and bring the biomass back in soil. In terms of biochar, in terms of substrate, in terms of closing the loop. Because we do not have an energy issue globally. We will run into a soil issue and we will run into a water issue. And soil and water are both connected. So energy, I'm pretty confident, could easily be covered by our renewable energy technologies. But we need to look into soil for the next decades to come. So we need to have a strategy for bioeconomy rather than a sustainability strategy. We need to maximize the use of our local resources and close local links. That's it for now. Thank you very much. We already move into the coffee break.
We are out of time, Michael. Is there anyone who would like to ask a question? Okay, just one question.
Okay, thank you. Well, I wonder what the policymakers in Germany think. I mean, it's a very nice vision that you presented, but I just looked up from the Bundesverband der Energie- und Wasserwirtschaft, so it's a reliable source of the latest plan of new power plant, and it looks like there are 10 new hard coal-fired power plants in planning with 10,000 megawatt capacity, as well as 2 lignite-fired ones in Germany. I mean, this comes in addition to subsidizing coal-fired power generation because of solar PV rooftops. In Germany, this hot debate going on. So I wonder your opinion.
The debate is very hard at the moment, but I'm very confident that the coal lobby will lose the battle. It's very easy. Their kind of argument is the intermittent nature of renewables. So what they argue is we need to provide regulatory electricity and we need to provide a kind of a capacity to ensure stabilization of 50 Hz. But all electrical or thermodynamic engineers know that a coal power station is not suitable for this purpose. So we see that we have last year, in some sunny days, already produced the total amount of electricity punctually over exceeding our demand. What do we see on the spot market for electricity? We have negative electricity prices. So we need to get rid of electricity. So what we do at the moment is we are paying people money to consume electricity in high times. Because we do still have some nuclear